So the 45% of people that said that I know very little, but I want to learn more, it's mostly men then that are saying that.
So I didn't show that answer, or I understand it well and want to learn more, because there were no significant differences between those two. And those were the middle answers.
Okay, so women are interested, but it's just more likely that women are not interested naturally than men are expressing they are interested.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's probably, again, because of the conservative versus risk-taking thing.
Yeah, that could be.
So if Bitcoin is perceived as a risky investment, a woman is probably going to say, oh, I'm not interested in that. But if Bitcoin is perceived as like freedom, independence, that sort of narrative, then the women would probably engage with that more.
I think that's super interesting, because I think that might be it, right? Like, why are women not interested? Like, be interested, but you're so right. If they think it's something risky and something not foolproof, then it may be something that they don't care to touch, because they are usually very, maybe level-headed in these ways. Okay, so do you consider yourself knowledgeable about what Bitcoin is in generation effects? So we have this here. Pull all that up. So boomers are significantly less interested. They're 51% not interested versus the average of 22.5%, 25% of no interest of others. So no interest from boomers compared to the other generations. And then we also have Gen X.
Wow, yeah, that is very skewed, because even the answers that are like, I'm knowledgeable or I understand it and want to learn more, it's 2% of boomers, 2% and 4%.
Yeah, it's very, very low.
So they definitely self-identify as not interested, and that they don't understand it.
Exactly, yeah, because at 43%, they know very little, right? They're saying, but they do want to learn more. And we only have 4% that think they're knowledgeable about it, even though they got that question about who runs Bitcoin the most right. But again, this is maybe, a self-identifying bias, like, oh, Bitcoin, it's that new thing. I don't care to be involved in it, or it's just not for me, right?
Yeah, and at this point in the survey, they haven't yet learned the economic benefits of having been invested in Bitcoin, so they're still answering the questions as if they think it's probably just some stupid technology for the kids or something like that.
Exactly, and that might very well be, if we ask an open-ended question, like, why do you feel this way? That might be exactly what we get back.
Because we did get results towards the, that at the end of the survey, when they're asked again, the boomers are the most receptive to changing their mind. So even though they self-identify as, I'm not interested or whatever, as they learn more and as they learn what a great investment it's been, that's when probably they change their mind.
Yeah, it's so true.
Whereas I wonder, did we get the stats of where like women probably wouldn't respond as well to that as a boomer, because it's still a risky thing, where phrasing it as like a technology for freedom and independence and free speech and things like that would probably convert women more than it would men.
Oh, that's interesting. I can look at the change effect between them. Yeah, from the beginning to the end. Yeah, that'd be interesting. See how women actually, yeah. Oh, I think maybe we'll get there, but I think by the end there were no gender differences. So you're right. Education actually switched that between men and women as well. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, super cool. And then I guess just to go on, so we have Gen Z. They're significantly more likely to just say, I know very little, but I want to learn more. And then we have Gen X and millennials, which are the most confident with their knowledge and feel very, very much like it's something that's for them. They understand it well and want to learn more. So Gen X and millennials appear as like the leading demographic for Bitcoin at this point.
No surprise there. Good to see that data.
Yeah, I think so too. Also, I think for the socioeconomic classes, super interesting. You have the wealthy over here, and they are at 45% thinking they're knowledgeable about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. And that's compared to 12%, 5%, and 8% of other classes. So you have 45% of this wealthy being like, I'm super knowledgeable. I know all about Bitcoin. Like, I got this. And even though they were the most wrong about who controls Bitcoin, but again, this is just like this class of like thinking they know everything and act in that way. Maybe people also like, they say things so confidently because they think they know everything, which is why
I think we hit on a vein there. No wonder people don't like rich people now. There's like this growing movement towards anti-capitalism. It's because they think they know everything.
they think they know everything, and they really don't, which is what we've proven. They're not more right. They're just more confident, which
Rich
is
people, all the rich people listening to this, you have to be more humble. Don't be that 45% that thinks you know everything and you're always wrong.
maybe, or we have to convince the middle class and the low income people that you guys should be more confident.
Oh, that's a good point too. Yeah, I was thinking about that from a scarcity mindset. I got to think about it from a growth mindset.
Yeah, right.
Everybody's got to get up to the level of confidence as the wealthy, even if they're wrong.
Yeah, I'm inspired. Let's be more confident in our very wrong choices. So that's interesting. Yeah, and then you have poor people, poverty and low income, thinking that they know very little. So yeah, that's the trend here. Yeah, super interesting. All right, we're getting there. We're getting close. Question 31, which asset do you think has been a better investment over the last 10 years than Bitcoin? The answer would be, the right answer is none of the above, right, Brad?
Yes, that's correct.
And only 12% of people think that it's none of the above. People actually think that gold, US stock market, or Federal Reserves were better investments, with gold in first place at 46%. And then if we look at the generation effects, boomers were most likely to select gold as a better investment. So they're at like 60% thinking that that was a better investment than Bitcoin. And we actually have Gen Z sticking with the US stock market. And 41% of Gen Z thought that would be a better investment.
That's interesting because I am surprised that amount of people knew intrinsically that gold would be a better investment than the stock market, or just felt like it would be a better investment, because I'm pretty sure gold has not been a better investment than the US stock market, but it's held its value. So the stock market's gone up in value, but gold has held its value pretty well, especially against dollars. And the fact that most boomers were likely to select gold is totally expected. And even that most Zoomers were going to select the stock market is expected, because there's growing trend of like robo advisors among the Zoomer class.
Yeah, Wealthsimple and all the
Wealthsimple, all these easy to access micro stock. You can put $10 into an Apple share or something like that. Like this is a growing trend, and there's this whole movement of the retire early. What's it called? The Rise movement or something like that.
I'm not sure.
RE retire. I gotta Google it. It's this movement among the Zoomers and some millennials. And it's like retire early. Okay, well, let me Google this.
Oh.
Financially secure or something like that.
That sounds great.
Yeah. So, anyways, it's this movement where they think that FIRE movement, the financial independence, retire early. It's the FIRE movement, and it's basically like this growing concept, I guess, or meme of like, just put your money in the stock market and then get all the interest, like the 6, 7, 8% interest, and retire early and just enjoy your life, and you'll be financially independent. And then there's the like buy houses and flip them and do Airbnb arbitrage and stuff that I'm seeing this trend amongst millennials and Gen Z. So it's surprising to see that the younger generation is so much more into the stock market, natively thinking about it. But I think it's because of this popular TikTok, social media, FIRE movement and arbitrage, Airbnb arbitrage and stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah. Interesting. Very, very interesting.
Because if you're a Zoomer, most likely you've never seen a recession happen. You've never seen the stock market crash. If you're a Gen X or a millennial, I mean, if you're a Gen X, you've seen your parents get wrecked by both the dot-com crash and the mortgage crisis of 2008. So you see the Gen X and the millennials too like I saw that happen too, and I'm 36, or 7, so I'm right on the cusp of Gen X and millennial. So I mean, I saw my parents and the effect of the housing crash, right, when I was impressionable and learning about things.
Yeah.
So I'm more natively going to be resistant to want to think stocks are a good investment, but someone who hasn't lived through that experience, like a Zoomer, it probably doesn't have the skewed belief that, oh, the stock market can crash and I can have my whole savings get destroyed in the stock market. So they're just going to be like, let's throw our money into it.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's so true. Yeah. Well, yeah, those are the differences. But again, people not yet believing that Bitcoin would be the best investment.
Yeah, 10% or so thought that Bitcoin was a better investment. So clearly they didn't have much exposure to the truth.
Yeah, the truth. And I think this is an interesting question because we ask people now, how much is all the Bitcoin in the world worth? And it's interesting because you said there are about 18.5 million Bitcoins that are in circulation right now. And the right answer would be that the total Bitcoin is worth 150 billion.
Yeah, the time we wrote the survey it was 150. It's a bit more now, but yeah, 150 billion is the correct answer.
Yeah, and we have 30% of the population giving that as the answer, but 54% actually overestimated the worldwide worth of Bitcoin. But that can also be in the anchor effect, which means we gave them larger values, right? Because we said all the cash money in the world is worth 80 trillion, gold is worth 8 trillion, real estate is worth 200 trillion. So they're thinking in that upper ranges in the trillions versus just asking them flat out. So.
Right.
But we still got 54% that overestimated the worldwide worth of Bitcoin.
So they overestimate how much Bitcoin is worth. They underestimate the depth of
Yeah.
so that's definitely what I expected to see, people thinking more confidently than they should be about the U.S. Currency and the stock market, and then not understanding how much potential value is left in Bitcoin to gain, from getting involved now.
Yeah.
So it's good to see the results. Pretty significantly, people think that Bitcoin is worth more than it actually is.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting too. And then just some generation effects, like side notes, boomers were the least likely to get this question correct, and significantly less likely because only 17% got it right versus like 30% average. And boomers and Gen X, so the older two generations, were more likely to overestimate the worth. So that's interesting as well.
So that is interesting. They think that they know natively Bitcoin's not controlled by anybody, but they're less interested in Bitcoin, and it's probably because they think it's worth so much and it's overvalued, and why should I pay attention? That's how I take from the data so far.
Interesting. Yeah. Overestimating at 15
They're probably
billion.
thinking like, oh, well, I saw on the news it went up 10, 100x, 1,000x, so it's probably worth too much.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting also. Yeah, exactly. And then we have also in socioeconomic effects, we have that the people below the poverty line underestimate this Bitcoin's worth. So they're thinking it's 15 billion. Yeah, which is interesting. Maybe if you have, less money, you also, think that 15 billion is enough.
Right.
That's all.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like a scarcity mindset, right? If you're not exposed to the growth of the stock market and all that, like the other income classes are, then you may be thinking in smaller numbers, and then you'll underestimate the value of what Bitcoin is worth.
Yeah, so we see that here. Yeah, so that's that.